Happy Friday, Wenatchee Valley. Happy Friday, North Central Washington, the 5th day of January 2018. I am Dan Kuntz. This is Wake Up Wenatchee Valley, and thank you for starting your day with us, the NCW Life channel, your local TV channel with news and sports and entertainment and anything else we can cram in our 24-hour broadcast schedule. I am Dan Kuntz. Good Friday to you. Very, very slippery conditions out there right out of the box. We got some slick roadways. We had some freezing rain mixed with a little bit of sleet, and we have a nice glossy coat all over the Wenatchee Valley in North Central Washington, but it's kind of hard to get around unless you're on the main roads. The main roads, of course, with the de-ice are being laid down, and then the friction between the tires on the asphalt keeps that ice from building up. But boy, the side streets and some parking lots are in bad shape, and a couple of the roads that have significant elevation changes, specifically Birch Mountain and Badger Mountain Road, are essentially ice rinks this morning. We're going to start out this morning with some school delays. If you don't already know, this is what we're looking at today. No school districts are actually closed, but the schools that you see on your screen are all on a 2-hour delay. Cascade, Cashmere, Aniat, Lake Chelan, Manson, Arundel, and Waterville. And in addition, the Badger Mountain bus route for the Eastmont School District is also on a 2-hour delay because of the slick roadways. So those schools that you see there are all on a 2-hour delay today. The two major school districts here in North Central Washington, the Wenatchee School District and the Eastmont School District, are on time this morning. So take a look at your screen, and if any of your kids go to those school districts, they can hang around in their pajamas and eat their cereal and maybe even watch this show. we try to skew younger whenever we possibly can. Yes, it is very slippery out there. We have a winter weather advisory, and we are going to continue to get pockets of freezing rain and sleet throughout the course of the day today. We'll get to that in just a minute. First, around the valley we go. We'll start out with a cross camera, and there we go. There's the Wenatchee Valley. You can almost see the fog bank right there, just kind of going right across about where the Otabashian Bridge is. Good morning to the Wenatchee Valley. All of these cameras that you're about ready to see, courtesy of Localtel's Sky-Fi high-speed wireless network. To Cougar Ridge we go, which of course is the way up to Badger Mountain, which as we mentioned before. Now the main roadways, again, are pretty okay. They're not bad. It's when you get to those side streets that you could be doing some slipping and some sliding. And walking today, by the way, can be very hazardous. Even if your sidewalk has been completely shoveled, there's just a light layer of ice coating just about everything this morning, and it could very well get worse before it gets better. Let's go to Monitor and see what Cashmere's up to this morning. There you are, Cashmere, you're still hanging around. And you can see, it looks to me that the cars that are driving between Cashmere and Wenatchee that you see in the lower part of your screen are going a little bit slower than they normally would. Cashmere is one of those school districts that are on the 2-hour delay today, by the way. And finally, let's go to Billy Goat. Take you up north about 60, 70 miles or so to say good morning to Pateros and Brewster on that incredible view that we've gotten so used to, the Billy Goat camera. Once they put that Billy Goat camera up, we just kind of use it all the time, don't we? So you see Pateros on the left-hand side of your screen where the Met Howe empties in, and then a little bit farther up, the beautiful town of Brewster. So yes, we do have a winter weather advisory for North Central Washington because we are going to see some freezing rain. Essentially, the farther west you are, the better chances of freezing rain. It's as simple as that. The Columbia Basin is going to get some freezing rain, not as much as, say, the Wenatchee Valley. The real areas of concern here today for significant freezing rain that could really coat things is going to be the Plain area, the Leavenworth area, up north Chelan. You could get a significant amount of freezing rain and sleet and ice accumulations. And here in the Wenatchee Valley, we're not out of this yet. We are going to get some freezing rain. We had some just plain rain yesterday about mid to late afternoon. That switched over briefly to freezing rain, but then of course the temperatures went down. What's going on here is that we have warm air way up above at the 7,000 or 8,000 feet mark. There's warm, moist air coming up from the southwest. If it's falling as rain at the higher elevations, and it goes through that pocket of cold air and it lands on the ground as freezing rain. So we do have a winter weather advisory for freezing rain, sleet, and even a little bit of snow lasting until 4 o'clock this afternoon. If you are in yellow, and that means everybody who can see me is pretty much in yellow on that thing, freezing rain, slippery conditions today, spilling in to tonight, and we should be okay on Saturday morning. Let's take a look at your forecast. Again, freezing rain off and on throughout the course of the day today, all the way till about 4 o'clock. At 4 o'clock is when that winter weather advisory is scheduled to run its course. It could certainly change. That steady temperature right around 30. We're at 27 right now in downtown Wenatchee. It's going to get up to 30 degrees, and it's just going to stay there. For the Wenatchee Valley proper, we could see daytime ice accumulations of, it's going to be less than an inch, certainly, almost micro, just tiny, maybe 1/10 of an inch, 2/10 of an inch, but that's enough. That's all it takes, really, to make driving very, very slippery, especially your afternoon commute. And on top of that, tonight, we could get a little bit of snow, about 1/2 inch of snow on top of the freezing rain that we're going to get off and on throughout the course of the day today. Saturday looks pretty good. Partly Sunday, we're going to have a little bit of melt there. We can deal with that. It's 35 degrees. Sunday, another weak system comes through, a little bit of light snow. The best chance of freezing rain is today between 7 a.m. now and 4 o'clock this afternoon, and then a little pocket of freezing rain here and there possible tonight. But throughout the course of the day today, we are going to see freezing rain off and on for the Wenatchee Valley. Thus, the winter weather advisory. As you can see for the rest of the forecast, whatever precipitation we get, once we get through today and tonight, it's not going to be in the form of freezing rain. It will either be just plain rain or a little bit of snow. Worst case scenario, we get freezing rain today as they predict, and then a little bit of light snow tonight. That is not good when you have snow on top of the ice, because you can't see the ice. It is 6 minutes after the hour. As you might imagine, if we have a winter weather advisory down here, the Mountain Passes has a winter weather advisory as well, and that's going to be the case. Let's take a look at what's going on in the Cascades right now. These are live shots courtesy of the Washington State Department of Transportation. Your best bet right now is I-90. There are no advisories or restrictions. The roadway is pretty much bare and wet. However, it is raining with a mixture of freezing rain, especially west of the summit on I-90. So I-90, you will find some freezing rain, so it's going to get worse before it gets better. But right now, on Snoqualmie, no advisories or restrictions. It is freezing rain on the summit of Stevens. Traction tires are advised, compact snow and ice on the roadway. Again, the rain is coming down, and it is freezing rain, not just plain rain, up on Stevens Pass. Stevens Pass right now is at 27 degrees, which is what we have on the valley floor. Now, Blewett Pass, freezing rain and snow mix. Again, not a good thing. That is the very summit of Stevens Pass. You can see some asphalt, but still, traction tires are advised on Stevens Pass, slush and ice in places, freezing rain and snow. All the major mountain passes are going to get freezing rain, and then, are you ready for this? It's going to switch over to snow and sleet. The mountain passes are not going to be very pleasant today. They could get up to 1 inch of ice and sleet in the Cascades today. Quick heads up, the weather is going to deteriorate as the day progresses in the Cascades. And then snow tonight, 2 to 4 inches of snow on top of the up to inch of ice they could get in the Cascades. So today in the Cascades, ice switching over to snow with some freezing rain at times. Right now, no advisories or restrictions on I-90, but traction tires are advised on Stevens and Blewett Pass, and yeah, that's going to change, as you might imagine. And again, for the Wenatchee Valley, we're not out of the woods yet. We have some very slippery conditions all over north central Washington and the Wenatchee Valley proper, and we are expecting pockets of freezing rain off and on throughout the course of the day today, with a high of about 30 degrees and the overnight low of about 30 degrees. It's January in north central Washington. 8 minutes after the hour, a quick 1-minute break. When we come back, the news. You're watching Wake Up Wenatchee Valley on the NCW Life Channel.
Hi, I'm Blair from Works, your workout prescription. Have you ever started an exercise program and then struggled to keep it going? So what if I told you that with this MyZone device, I could increase your chances of self-motivated exercise adherence by over 200%. Combine that with an exercise prescription specifically for your level of readiness, we'll increase it even more. And that's our new member success system. It's $99, it's exclusively at Works. It includes your MyZone belt. Works, yourworkoutrx.com.
And now it's time for your local news update with Steve Hare.
9 minutes after the hour on this Friday edition of Wake Up Wenatchee Valley. I am Dan Kuhn. Steve Hare, our news director, still a little under the weather, so he's going to take the rest of the day off and the weekend, and we hope that Steve is back to 100% and feeling good come Monday. In the meantime, I'll tackle your news on this Friday morning. A house fire in South Wenatchee yesterday afternoon largely destroyed a home and has displaced over a dozen residents. The fire was reported shortly after 1 when an upstairs resident smelled smoke emanating from the lower level of the dwelling. The house is an older home that's been converted into apartments. Crews from Chelan County Fire District Number 1 and Douglas County Fire District Number 2 responded to the home in the 1300 block of South Wenatchee Avenue. No injuries were reported. The cause of the fire has yet to be determined. We'll have more on that fire in tonight's news at 5 o'clock with Grant Olson. Well, changing the name of the Robert E. Elementary School is now solely in the hands of the Eastmont School Board. In a letter sent to Eastmont School District Superintendent Garn Christensen in December, Wenatchee Attorney John Brangwyn, along with former Chelan County Superior Court Judge Carol Wardell, said the school district lacks the legal authority to request a public vote on the name change.
That is a decision that falls squarely in their job. We've elected them to make certain decisions on how to run the school district. That's their job. They can't delegate their job to the voters. They actually need to do their job. And so the letter we laid out basically explained with a number of legal cases cited why they can't put it to a vote. They don't have the authority. They don't have the permission of the legislature to do that. And so we pointed that out. As I understand it, the superintendent then took our letter to the Douglas County prosecuting attorney who advises school districts occasionally on these types of matters, and also would be the one that would have had to have approved the ballot title. And the Douglas County prosecuting attorney reviewed our letter, did his own research, verified our research, and came to the same conclusion that they need to make the decision, whatever that decision is, but they need to be the ones to make it.
Superintendent Christensen says the school name change is a unique situation, and the school board's decision to place it on the ballot in November was done without knowing the legality of the process.
School districts proceed every day with the intent of always being compliant with the law. The situation that was presented to us with the name of Robert E. Lee and the decision our board made to go forward with an advisory vote on a ballot was something that's unique. It isn't something that you encounter very often in school district operations or administration. So when Mr. Brangwyn brought this to our attention, it was something that we proceeded to do some additional research on. The county prosecuting attorneys in Washington State are tasked with reviewing any item that would be placed on a ballot. So I sent Mr. Brangwyn a letter, and Carol Waddell was also a signatory on that letter to Mr. Clem, and he did his own analysis and came to basically the same conclusion that it is not an allowable activity for a school board to do an advisory vote. So we'll be proceeding to rescind that action, and the board will be revisiting that topic.
At the last school board meeting back in December, Christensen recommended as a compromise that they change the name of the school to simply Lee Elementary. Both John Brangwyn and Carol Wardell said they would both support the change to simply Lee Elementary. The next board meeting, by the way, is Monday, this Monday, January 8th at Grant Elementary School, and the school board will officially rescind the proposal to put it on the November ballot and will further consider the name change of Lee Elementary. By the way, John Brangwyn, who's been one of the vocal proponents of changing the name, will be Mike McNally's guest on Monday's edition of Street Talk and other stuff live right here at 10 o'clock on the NCW Life channel. Well, yesterday, the United States Justice Department rescinded the Obama administration's existing stance on legalized marijuana. Attorney General Jeff Sessions has been known for being on the warpath when it comes to marijuana's legalization in several states across the U.S. Of course, marijuana is still listed as a controlled substance by the federal government. So this change in policy comes just after California became the most recent state to legalize marijuana. So we spoke with Lisa Wendt from the Happy Crop Shop to get a local perspective.
I guess I'm kind of surprised that it's coming down today. We've been hearing about this for quite some time this past year, about Jeff Sessions' opposition to the marijuana industry. So more states have rolled on. So I guess to me it's kind of surprising that he's now waited until after California, a huge state, has come on to announce that they are pulling basically the Cole memo and rescinding the words that were previously stated during the Obama administration. Well, it is unfortunate. There is tons of money that has been dumped into this industry with the assumption that, with the Cole memo being, that was sort of the waiting, all the states were waiting to hear the outcome of that. So everybody has kind of moved forward. Now it seems even though states, the voters have, the mindset is that it's okay, let's move forward with retail marijuana. So it's sort of a step back, although, from what I understand, and this is all just breaking as of today, so I really don't have a whole lot of information, but I think that what I've heard is that the states will have jurisdiction over how to proceed with this. So at this point, I feel like the state of Washington, we have Attorney General, Bob Ferguson and Governor Jay Inslee that have been supporters of the industry. So at this point, I'm hopeful that our state Attorney General and those will be supportive and will be a proponent in our favor. I'm not freaking out at this point or too worried. I think that we'll have to see how it goes between the feds and the state government and kind of go from there. We will continue to follow all of the rules and the guidelines that have been set forth. Again, I don't know. Are they going to have additional requirements? Are the states going to just say, nope, we're not going to prosecute, we're good with this, we feel like we have good controls? So again, until I hear further notice, it's business as usual. We will continue to be conservative and follow the rules and do the very best we can to still continue to follow the guidelines of the Cole Memo and wait and see what happens.
In the meantime, how did downtown Wenatchee merchants do now that the holiday shopping season is a done deal? Well, yesterday we caught up with Linda Haglund, the executive director of the Wenatchee Downtown Association.
Well, it's always wonderful downtown. What do you think I'm going to say, right? But actually, when I surveyed and asked people how the holiday was for them, because it's important for us to know, gauging, did our efforts work, right? Our promotional efforts, the things we encourage people to do. The really fun thing was that it was a great year downtown. What we've heard from people is that they had great sales. Many were up over last year, which is great to hear. But I think the things that warm my heart the most are when retailers say that people were mindful of shopping local, of staying local. Some even said that customers commented how fun it was to shop downtown, the unique and different things that we have downtown. But it's the people. It's the people that own these businesses and love the downtown that makes a difference. And this year, the community really stepped up and acknowledged that. It was a great year downtown. Obviously, we haven't heard from everybody, but who we've heard from, it was a great holiday season.
So that was retail sales. What about retail jobs? How is the Wenatchee Valley doing in that department? Well, of course, Don Messick is the labor economist for this area, and he said despite the good holiday shopping season, the retail economy from a job standpoint remains stagnant.
Retail's been virtually stagnant here in the Wenatchee MSA for at least the last year. We've had some retail closures, and I think, although it's always hard to attribute it to any one reason, I think we're seeing some movement away from brick and mortar purchasing here to internet shopping. I do know that our retail is not looking very good right now in terms of job growth rates. We're not losing jobs. In fact, we're actually up 100 jobs this November compared to November 16. But when I go back and look at 12 months, it's a very stagnant industry right now in terms of employment.
And that is the news on this Friday edition of Wake Up Wenatchee Valley. Once again, Steve Hare, news director. Get well soon, buddy. We miss you here, but we're still a team, and we're out there gathering news, and we will have another newscast for you tonight with Grant Olson at 5 o'clock, which will be interrupted, of course, with high school basketball. We'll talk more about that when we get to sports. So we will have a newscast for you tonight, and we will have the newscast playing between the girls and the boys game when Eastmont hosts Moses Lake. So you will still be able to get caught up in all the developments on this Friday with the news later on this evening. And at the bottom of the screen is all the different ways you can get a hold of us. We love to hear from you, our viewers. It is 18 minutes after the hour. A whole raft full of sports is 1 minute away. You're watching Wake Up Wenatchee Valley, and we're live here from Studio 1 in downtown Wenatchee on the NCW Life channel.
I'm Grant Olson, and you're watching the NCW Life channel.
I'm Eric Grandstrom with NCW Life Sports.
I'm NCW Life News Director Steve Hare.
Catch us on LocalTel Channel 12.
You can watch us on Charter Channel 19 or stream us live on ncwlife.com.
Follow us on Twitter and like us on Facebook.
Where we cover the local high schools, the Wenatchee Wild, and the pro teams out of Seattle.
On Saturday, we have a 90% chance of rain.
Catch it all right here on the NCW Life channel.
My name is Robert Duff. Current and previous occupation is architect, engineer, and lawyer. Grew up here in Washington, born in Moses Lake. When I first came to CVCH, was looking for a place to get some dental work done. And I was really impressed with the people at the counter. I mean, they were just on top of it. It only took her like 15 minutes to do the job. I didn't feel anything. The technology is so great, you don't even realize you're at the dentist. These people are so professional. I would have any one of these people in my home for dinner. These people are family.
20 minutes after the hour on this Friday edition of Wake Up Wenatchee Valley. I am Dan Kuntz. 27 degrees outside of our studios. Get ready for pockets of freezing rain, maybe mixed with a little bit of sleet off and on throughout the course of the day today. We have a winter weather advisory until 4 o'clock, so the afternoon commute could be a little dicey. Heads up. All right, let's take a look at the Les Schwab Prep scoreboard from last night. There you go. Orville topping Waterville, Mansfield in boys basketball, and Manson got the better of Soap Lake and Antioch over Moses Lake Christian in girls basketball. At the double duel in Cashmere last night, there are your final scores. The Bulldogs beat Omak 51-15, but they fell to Cascade 48-14. Chelan got them both. They beat Cascade and Omak. The Les Schwab Prep scoreboard from Thursday includes bowling. The Panthers squeaked by Eisenhower by 74 pins in bowling. That's really, really close. The win keeps the team firmly in second place. They have 3 matches to go. The Panthers do. Next for Wenatchee's list, Tuesday they'll take on Davis at Eastmont Lane. Speaking of Eastmont, they edged past Moses Lake 3-2. They remain undefeated on the season. In the pool yesterday, Eastmont defended its home water. If you can do that, they beat Davis, no problems at all, and Eisenhower as well. Now, prep basketball scoreboard for tonight. We will go ladies first, because that's what you're supposed to do. Okanagan is at Chelan. Cascade travels to Omak. That's Caribou Trail League play. The Big 9 tilt of the night will be in East Wenatchee. Eastmont will take on the 9-0 Moses Lake Chiefs. This is a very good Moses Lake girls basketball team. You can see them in person, or you can watch it live right here on the NCW Live channel. Grant Olson and Eric Grandstrom will be calling the action. 5:45 tip right here on the NCW Live channel. And tomorrow you see the schedule for girls basketball on Saturday. To boys basketball tonight, there is your schedule. Cascade is at Omak. Okanagan is at Chelan. And yes, we will have game 2 of the Moses Lake Eastmont doubleheader. The boys game will get going approximately 20 minutes after the conclusion of the girls contest. Between games, we will have your nightly news with Grant Olson. So that is Friday and Saturday's game, or schedule, I should say. And let's move on to our next slide, which is tomorrow's schedule. Wenatchee and Eastmont will be at the Kentridge Invitational. This is a big one. Begins tomorrow at 3:30 in wrestling. Wenatchee is at the University Tournament today and tomorrow. And in the meantime, the Wenatchee Wild. They're in Salmon Arm, trying to get back on the winning track in BCHL action. The puck drops at 7 o'clock at the Shaw Center. Of course, Wenatchee lost Wednesday to Trail. The final was 2-1. And then Wenatchee has a rematch with Penticton at the South Okanagan Event Center at 6 o'clock tomorrow. Remember, the last time these two teams played a week ago Saturday, it was an ugly, ugly ending. 11 penalties, several ejections, and lots of fights in the last 54 seconds of last Saturday's game. We'll see if the bad blood spills over. And finally, football. Let me tell you about the football. The NFL's wild card playoffs are upon us, and there is your schedule. If you look very carefully, you don't see Seattle. You don't see Seattle. All right, 23 minutes after the hour. Quick little breaking note. I just got a text from my brother Eric, who says Wenatchee schools are on a 2-hour delay. So you can add the Wenatchee School District on your list of schools that have 2-hour delays going on because of the icy roads. No word yet from Eastmont, but many of the other school districts in north central Washington are on a 2-hour delay because of the bad roads. All right, let's move forward at 23 minutes after the hour. The obscure holiday, it is January 5th. It is Bird Day today. There are 3 different bird days to celebrate. This bird day is specifically to draw attention to birds in captivity. You can have birds in captivity and you can make them very happy and healthy and they live a long life, but it's birds in captivity that are not treated very well, that are exploited and not treated in the way that they're supposed to be treated, that this day is designed to bring attention to. So for those bird lovers out there who love birds and wouldn't mind having a bird or 2 in the house, just remember to treat them right. So there you go. It is National Bird Day today. And just, throw some bird seed outside too. The birds get cold. They need to eat this time of year too, the ones that don't fly south for the winter, the smart ones. It is January 5th, 2018. Let's do Today in History. On this date in 1925, Nellie Ross of Wyoming. There she is. She became the very first governor in the history of the United States who was a female. The very first female governor in this nation's history, Nellie Ross of Wyoming. She served 1 2-year term. She ran for re-election in 1926, and she lost. To date, starting with Nellie Ross, there have been 37 female governors in U.S. history and well over 1,000 male governors. So we still got some work to do there, don't we? And on January 5th, 1933, the Golden Gate Bridge construction began in San Francisco Bay. It was one of the biggest public projects in this nation's history. And check this out. It finished ahead of schedule and under budget. You don't hear that anymore. They began building the Golden Gate Bridge on this date in 1933. It is a spectacular sight, and when the weather is clear in San Francisco, it's something you just got to see. 25 minutes after the hour, birthdays. Birthdays, let's get to it. The great Sam Phillips, there he is. Sam Phillips was born on this date in 1923, passed away at the age of 80 in 2003. Sam Phillips was the founder of Sun Records. He was the man responsible for Elvis Aaron Presley, that truck driver from Tupelo, Mississippi. Sam Phillips let Elvis do his own thing, and it wasn't just Elvis. It was Johnny Cash and Roy Orbison and Jerry Lee Lewis and Carl Perkins and Howlin' Wolf and Charlie Rich, all the great Sun Records from the late 40s all the way into the early 1960s. The legendary Sam Phillips, he was the first non-performer to be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame back in 1986. The legendary Sam Phillips was born in the state in 1923. Two of my favorite actors celebrate birthdays today. They have a lot in common. There's Robert Duvall. He's 87 years old today. Robert is now fully retired from the motion picture industry, but he was in just about every movie I loved when I was younger, including my all-time favorite, The Godfather saga. Robert Duvall is 87 years old today with an Academy Award on his shelf for Tender Mercies. He was good in that. Also starring in The Godfather was Diane Keaton, who celebrates her 72nd birthday today. Happy 72nd birthday to Diane Keaton. She has an Academy Award on her shelf, too, for Annie Hall back in 1977. Bradley Cooper. This guy's got a bunch of awards. He celebrates a birthday today. He's 43. I first saw him in Wedding Crashers. He was hilarious. And then in The Hangover. And then he went from comedy to drama. It turns out he could do either very, very well. And, of course, he starred in American Sniper, a remarkably brilliant movie from a couple of years ago. Bradley Cooper is 43 years old today. We have some local celebrities. Let's bring up, there's Dave. Well, Dave Granstrom is the guy on the right. The guy in the red shirt is Eric. Eric is not 75 years old today. Although sometimes he feels it. Dave Granstrom, Eric Granstrom's dad, is 75 years old. Hey, he's a great guy. I had a great chance to spend some time with him when he was in town over the holidays to call some wrestling with Eric. So Dave Granstrom, 75 years young today. Happy birthday, Dave. That comes with love from your son, Eric. And happy birthday to Caroline Ann Kuntz. She's 1 today, 1 year old. Yes, that comes from Grammy Juju. Grammy Juju. And also your great Uncle Dan and the whole Kuntz family. Yes, Caroline Kuntz, who's walking ahead of schedule, is 1 year old today, and she's just a cutie, as you might imagine. It is 28 minutes after the hour. Mike McNally's opinion is coming up in just a couple of minutes. One more reminder about Street Talk and other stuff. John Brangwyn, the local attorney who's been leading the effort to change the name of Robert E. Lee Elementary, will be Mike McNally's guest on Monday's edition of Street Talk and Other Stuff, Monday the 8th, live right here at 10 o'clock on the NCW Live channel. 10 o'clock Monday morning. You do not want to miss that show. And when we do Mike McNally's opinion, and then we're going to replay my interview with Lauren Carner, who is our local in-house Star Wars expert. The Last Jedi is still making great guns, and it's a pretty good movie. I finally saw it. It's a great conversation. You're going to love that. All coming up in the second half of Wake Up Wenatchee Valley. One more quick reminder, Wenatchee Schools also now on a 2-hour delay, in case you didn't know. All right, 28 minutes after the hour. We'll be right back right after this.
Alone, it can be hard to reach our dreams. It can feel like you aren't welcome anywhere. When no one's there to clap. Taking on the world by yourself. But when we come together, when we lend a helping hand, when we set the stage, when you support causes you care about in your community, lives are changed. You make a difference in someone's life when you give. Imagine the impact if everyone in our community gave 10%. 10% makes a difference.
In our experience, some people are just cut out for charter college and for success in a new career. These charter types are hard workers. Charter types go above and beyond. And charter types are responsible. If you're ready to get to work making a better future for yourself, you're just our type. Charter College. We work to get you to work.
SkillSource specializes in assessing and guiding youth, adults, and laid-off workers who want to improve their skills. Here you can attend in-depth workshops to assess skills and interests, make career plans, and learn computer basics.
Learning centers provide eligible youth and adults individualized computer-assisted basic education. Vocational training is arranged with approved providers like community colleges or on the job with businesses.
Don't wait any longer. Let's get working on the future you've been dreaming about.
Hi, I'm Cordell Schroeder, owner of East Wenatchee Mobile Storage.
If you're thinking about making a move anytime soon, check out the East Wenatchee Mini Storage brand new mobile storage service. They drop it off at your location, you pack it, and they pick it up and store it in their protected warehouse at East Wenatchee for as long as you need. When you're ready, they'll drop it off at your new home or office. East Wenatchee Mini Storage is excited to offer this brand new service to our region.
Call 509-884-8643 or find us on the web at ewministorage.com.
Bay Equity Home Loans in Wenatchee, serving all of North Central Washington. We make it our priority to learn all about your financial needs. Whether you're buying your first home, refinancing, or want a reverse mortgage, our mortgage professionals are ready to guide you through the loan process. We have a wide variety of loan products to fit your family's needs. Call Bay Equity Home Loans of Wenatchee today for your pre-approval. 509-888-0466.
Hey, this is Mike Mad Dog Magnotti, and everybody is entitled to my opinion. You know, you've been wrong about heaven and hell. You really have. I realized that what I've been taught about these places is really screwed up. First of all, hell isn't hot. I mean, you're supposed to be miserable there, right? So instead of being hot, hell must be colder than a well digger's butt with slush, ice, and terminally cold, wet feet. And heaven's supposed to be paradise, correct? A place where you're both really comfortable, happy, and you're thrilled to be there. So heaven has got to be a place that it's warm, with warm salt water, cold beer, and hot garlic shrimp. And also there'll be roller coasters, oh yeah, wild, crazy, upside down and corkscrew roller coasters, and never a line to wait in. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. That's heaven. This is Mike Mad Dog Magnotti, and that's my opinion.
Hey folks, Carrie from Blueberry Hills. A chill is in the air and it's a perfect time for some old-fashioned comfort food like our amazing Eggs Benedict, chicken fried steak, French dips, soups made from scratch, or fruit pies fresh from the oven. The crowds might be gone, but we're still here for you folks, so bring an appetite and a friend to Blueberry Hills in Manson, where you pick, you sit, you eat, and you visit. Open Wednesday through Sunday from 8 to 3. wildaboutberries.com.
If you're stuck trying to find the perfect beer for you, look no further than Badger Mountain Brewing. We specialize in creating tantalizing craft beers that will soothe any picky taste buds and will satisfy your cravings. Check out everything from our amazing Honey Blonde that will appease even the most finicky taster, or a delicious frothy stout for dark beer lovers. Experience them all at Badger Mountain Brewing.
Life is about memories and lasting impressions. With Boswell's expansive two-story showroom of quality home furnishings, you'll find everything you need to create a home to remember. Need assistance? From fabric options and complimentary design service to complete home makeovers, Glenn, Buffy, and Teresa are there to guide you. Come into Boswell's and find inspiration and comfort for every room in your home. Boswell's on Easy Street. It's closer than you think.
Hi, this is Carl.
And Kathy from East Wenatchee Grocery Outlet. We are excited to be a part of this wonderful community and look forward to meeting you at East Wenatchee Grocery Outlet.
Our store is filled with name brand products at bargain prices at 40 to 60% savings. We have a large selection of natural, organic, and specialty foods.
Stop by and meet Carl, the wine guy, on Wednesday.
East Wenatchee Grocery Outlet, where you can win what you saved. Stop by soon.
And we're back on Wake Up Wenatchee Valley. I am Dan Kuntz. It is the cultural phenomenon of the last 40 years. I think that's safe to say. It's not hyperbole. I'm not exaggerating. I'm talking about, of course, Star Wars. It began as a little bitty film in 1977. Who's kidding who? It was a huge film. It's now 40 years later, and the next group of films have now hit the movie theaters, and we asked around the building, and we said, who's the #1 Star Wars fan in this particular building in downtown Wenatchee? And the votes came in, and the winner is, dun-dun-dun-dun, Lorne Connor. Welcome to the program, my friend.
Thanks for having me.
We'll talk about Star Wars, your whole involvement with Star Wars, why you like it so much. I'm a huge fan of Star Wars, especially the first 3 movies, and I got a couple of stories about that. But let's get right to the point. The Last Jedi. You've seen it now a couple of times. Without telling anybody what happens if the Last Jedi is revealed in this movie. Your impression?
It was shocking. Fans like myself have spent the last couple of years trying to figure out where do you go after The Force Awakens. And Star Wars fans are notorious for arguing and debating and theorizing and trying to figure out what's going to happen next. As the reviews started coming out on the pre-release, people were being very careful about how they were talking about the movie, and they kept saying that this is like nothing you've ever seen before in the Star Wars universe. Shocking things are going to happen. And in the fan base, people got concerned about that. They were talking as though this was going to change everything that you've ever seen in the universe before. In this case, walking into the movie, I didn't know what to expect, and it's true. There are shocking events that occur in the movie. It's a lot of fun, but you're going to come out, you're either going to love the movie or you're going to hate it, and it depends on where in the fan base you sit, how your reaction is going to be towards the movie.
Critics have been overwhelmingly positive. They're falling all over themselves praising the movie. But the fans themselves are split right down the middle.
I'd say in thirds. There have been now 3 generations of Star Wars fans that have been all introduced at different times. You have the original trilogy diehards, you have the generation that came up during the prequels, and now you have these new sequel movies. And everybody seems to gravitate towards where their introduction point was. For those people who are brand new to Star Wars or casual fans, they seem to love the movie. For people that are original trilogy fans or even some of the prequel watchers, it's very divisive. People have a lot of different thoughts about main characters, especially Mark Hamill as Luke Skywalker and his characterization in this movie, and I think people are going to be debating it for a long time.
Does this movie stand alone as a movie? If you have no idea, if you've never seen Star Wars before, you don't know Jabba the Hutt, from Luke Skywalker, from Princess Leia to anybody, does the movie stand alone as 2.5 hours of entertainment, or do you need to know the backstory to get it?
It depends on what you're going to the movie for. If you're a guy who loves special effects and spectacle and you like big battle scenes, then if you're coming to it just with the intent to have a fun Saturday afternoon, you'll probably enjoy it. But if you're going there for the story and wanting to understand what's going on, it's going to be difficult to use that as your entry point.
What would you use as the entry point? Go back to the previous movie?
Well, I always think that the original movies are the place to start. The brilliance of beginning with Episode 4 for George Lucas was that he had this big sprawling idea of this story that he wanted to tell, but he didn't have a budget or a studio that really believed in the project. So his thinking was, if I can only make one movie that's a self-contained story where I can get across what the background of all of this is, where would that be? And that's Episode 4. And the brilliance of starting there is that he takes the audience and uses Luke as the surrogate. And Obi-Wan Kenobi, in the middle of the movie, explains this backstory of who the Jedi Knights are, why they're important, and gives you the grounding for everything that you need to know to make all of the rest of the fireworks make sense. So that's where I would begin.
The Last Jedi, you used the word shocking. You have a son who's how old?
8.
Were you comfortable taking him to the movie, or was it a little too intense for an 8-year-old?
I think it was fine.
Okay.
Of course, every kid is going to be different, and being in my household, he's seen the original movies dozens of times, so it's not too intense for him. There is some violence that, especially in the middle of the movie, depending on how squeamish your children are, they may not want to have their eyes open during a particular scene. But besides that, I think that it's fine for kids of all ages. Star Wars has largely been bloodless throughout the entire saga, so I don't think it's something that would be too shocking.
I would say it's cartoon violence kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know there's violence going on, but you're not seeing blood and gore.
Sure, yeah.
And that kind of stuff.
There's been a couple isolated scenes in the series that have shown things like smoking skeletons and a little bit of blood, but as you said, it's no more than you'd see in any other movie.
Sure. It's 2.5 hours. Is it too long, too short? Did it fly right by?
I think you could probably trim maybe 20 minutes from it.
Okay.
By the end of the thing, it's probably time for it to end. But again, if you're a diehard fan, there's not a moment in the movie that's a good place to take a bathroom break, because it's constantly keeping the action going, and if you leave, you're going to miss something. So.
Channel your inner George Lucas. Do you think George has nothing to do with it anymore? He's signed away everything. He still gets. You sold it for what? A couple of $billion bucks. The whole franchise.
$4 billion.
Who owns the franchise now? Is it Disney?
It is Disney.
Are they true to the story? Would George be happy with it, or did Disney take it in a whole other direction? The new creative team. There's new people in charge now.
Yeah, there are. And when he sold the rights to Star Wars and all of the Lucas companies, it included his draft scripts for 7, 8, and 9. And the new creative team took a look at it and decided that they didn't like the direction that he was going to go. Their determination was that it was a little too close to the prequels, and the prequels had caused a bit of backlash when they first came out. So instead, they took some of the core concepts and they went off on their own direction. George was not terribly happy with The Force Awakens, I think because he felt that it was a bit of a copy of Episode 4.
Which was The Empire Strikes Back I'm sorry, with Star Wars, the original Star Wars, right?
Yeah,
I can remember that.
It had a lot of similar story beats, and I think that he felt that he would have done something more original. He likes to say that he always tried to push the movies to do something different each time. I think it's safe to say that Episode 8 does that, and I think that's why the fan base is a little bit split right now. You have people that didn't like the prequels when they came out, complained that George Lucas had ruined Star Wars, and if they could just get rid of George, then the Star Wars movies would get back on track and be what the fans wanted. Now they've gotten rid of George, and they said that the Episode 7, the first one that came out without George's involvement, was too similar to what George wanted to do. So this time they came out and they did something completely different that was not something that George probably would have done, and now everybody's mad but it's not like George would have done it. So this is typical for fan bases. They love to argue, they are very opinionated, and they're passionate about how they feel about it. And so I just kind of sit back and watch and think, this is funny. I like seeing the different opinions and how everybody justifies how they feel.
The first 3 movies, as were released, came out fairly close together as far as these things go. 77, and then The Empire Strikes Back a couple of years later, and then
Return of the Jedi.
Return of the Jedi were very close together, and then there was a fairly long period before the prequels came out. Did that hurt the Star Wars enterprise, so to speak? Because it was a long wait between Episode 6 and Episode 1.
Yeah, I think it depends on how you look at it. If you wanted to go and make the sequels, what we're seeing now, 7, 8, and 9, then waiting so long probably hurt. I think that these sequels may have been better received had they been made earlier instead of the prequels, because you would have had Mark Hamill and Carrie Fisher and Harrison Ford still being younger and maybe being able to handle the action a little bit better. On the other hand, George was tired at the end of Return of the Jedi. He wanted to take a break. If he was going to make any more, he didn't think that he had the technology at the time to handle the kind of spectacle that he wanted to create. So around 1992, some of the people at the Lucas company wanted George to get started on some new Star Wars projects, and George thought that was all done. There's not an audience for it anymore. Nobody's going to want to see this. But he had a particular assistant who had been with him from the very beginning, who kept bothering him about getting a publishing program started. And she finally nagged him enough that he said, fine, go off, find somebody to write some books and see what happens. And they contacted an author named Timothy Zahn, who wrote a trilogy of novels that kind of became the sequels for what would happen after Return of the Jedi. And it sold out through 4 print runs. They actually ran out of ink for the color of the dust jacket, and the 4th printing had a yellowish cover because they didn't have any blue ink left. And they realized there's an audience here. The generation that had originally watched the movie were kids, and now they'd grown up and they had this interest. And so they started putting other things out there and saying, let's see how far can we push this. And when they realized that there was still a giant audience that now had spending cash out there, they said, okay, we can go forward with the prequels. Had they not done that publishing program first, it's possible we never would have gotten any additional movies. So waiting, I think, worked out in the long run.
One more question. Again, we're talking with Lauren Carner, our in-house Star Wars expert. One more question before we take a quick commercial break. CGI, how much has that changed the franchise? This ain't 1977 anymore, is it?
It's interesting. They balance practical effects with CGI. I think there's a certain charm to using practical effects and capturing as much in camera as you can. And when the prequels first came out, CGI had changed everything that you could do. And I think there is a portion of the fan base that thinks that too much CGI detracts from the picture. And so what you're seeing in this new generation of films is they're trying to balance it a lot better. There's been a bit of a resurgence of traditional model work, puppetry, animatronics, and that kind of thing that is then supplemented by the CGI, and I think you get a better overall effect. There's a lot of neat creature effects that you'll see in The Last Jedi that I think balances those two technologies a lot better.
Speaking for myself, the changes that George Lucas himself made to episodes 4, 5, and 6 with some additional scenes and some extra CGI that were not available to him in 1977, I thought were brilliant. I thought they really helped the story. I really did.
I think it depends on how you look at it. There are purists who think that you should never ever touch the original print, and I can understand the impulse. But if you're going to do the prequels and they're going to be CGI heavy, and then you try and dovetail those with the original movies where they had really cheap sets and you just had a very small camera frame that you could work with, the two series never would have dovetailed together without doing the special editions. I think where my argument comes from is if you're going to enhance the movies, it's fine to fix dodgy 1980s special effects. When you start making story and character changes, that's when people can justifiably get angry about changing who some of the characters in the movies are.
Lauren Carner is my guest. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, he's 40, I'm 53, so he's the same age as the Star Wars franchise, and we'll talk about Star Wars, the original 3, and how it affected me, and other stuff with Lauren when we come back. You're watching Wake Up in Anchi Valley on the NCW Life channel.
Hi, this is Carl.
And Kathy from East Wenatchee Grocery Outlet. We are excited to be a part of this wonderful community and look forward to meeting you at East Wenatchee Grocery Outlet.
Our store is filled with name brand products at bargain prices at 40 to 60% savings. We have a large selection of natural, organic, and specialty foods.
Stop by and meet Carl, the wine guy, on Wednesday.
East Wenatchee Grocery Outlet, where you can win what you saved. Stop by soon.
Lake Chelan mailboxes find solutions and the best price for all your shipping needs, including UPS, FedEx, and the U.S. Postal Service. We offer a variety of services including quality copies of all sizes, faxing, scanning, sending and receiving email, laminating, and notarizing. Enjoy browsing through our large selection of greeting cards. Lake Chelan mailboxes supports our military, fire victims, and our community.
See us at the Plaza in Chelan for all your holiday needs.
Just as it went on the air, Steve, NCW Life is live now on Facebook.
Hey, how's about that? We're live, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm Dan Kuntz, your host for the next hour.
Every weekday, starting at 7 o'clock.
Get ready for a bunch of news that's coming your way.
Here's what's happening around North Central Washington. I'll have a rundown of all your local, regional, and statewide news. You can also find more on our website at ncwlife.com. Follow us on Twitter and like us on Facebook. That's Wake Up Wenatchee Valley on NCW Life News.
And we are back here in Wake Up Wenatchee Valley. The topic is Star Wars, specifically The Last Jedi, but also Star Wars as a cultural phenomenon and as a really good set of films. My story, Lauren, I was 12 going on 13 in the summer of 1977 when Star Wars came out, and a bunch of 6 or 7 of my buddies, we all went to Star Wars at the old Columbia Cinema in East Wenatchee, and it was one of the first times I can ever remember when the movie was over, everybody stood up and clapped. Now, people normally don't clap in a movie theater. Right. It's not like Han Solo and Harrison Ford are going to come out and bow. Right. They're not there. They're on film. But it was that kind of impact. And this is absolutely a true story. I saw the movie 5 times in 5 days. Wow. The next day I call up anybody who hadn't, you want to go? Let's go. That was how I got into it. Your introduction to Star Wars?
Well, I wasn't born when the original movie came out, and so my initial introduction would have been on VHS. And I remember watching it as a little kid and enjoying it, but it's as a kid, you're not really paying attention to the story. It's all about the spectacle and the pew-pew sounds and all of that. What I do remember is during Return of the Jedi, I did get to go and see that in the theater. I was probably a little young for it, and I remember that the Emperor was really scary because Darth Vader was afraid of him. And there's a scene in Return of the Jedi when the Emperor is electrocuting Luke and he's writhing on the floor. And I remember leaning over to my dad and saying, "Is Luke going to be okay?" And my dad, bless his heart, leaned over to me and said, "I don't know, son." And that was the scariest thing that Dad could have told me at that time in the movie. And so I was on the edge of my seat. At that age, you know, it was a lot of fun, but it wasn't something that really stuck with me. It wasn't until I hit my teens, when all of this was coming back up again, that it caught my attention because of the books that I was mentioning earlier. I had happened to pick one up at a bookstore, and that first novel that came out was an absolute page turner. And it was referencing things from the movies that I hadn't seen in probably 10 or 15 years, and I realized I needed to go back and watch them because I didn't remember what had happened. And at that point, it really got its hooks into me, and from then on out, I just grabbed everything that I could. So,
are the first 3 movies underrated?
No,
because there were some people who were disappointed. There were people who didn't like certain characters. I'm not going to mention Jar Jar Binks, but I just did.
I think that there are some very legitimate criticisms of the prequels. I think one of the biggest complaints that the fan base has is that George had outlined when he made the original movies kind of what his concepts for the prequels would be, and they weren't really shy about sharing some of the major plot beats with the audience. I think probably because they didn't think they would ever really make them. But over the years, George had had a family, some of his sensibilities had changed. He's always seen these as movies for kids. They're not really made for guys like me. And some of his opinions about the story he wanted to tell had changed. And when that hit the audience, it was like a bucket of cold water, at least initially. Looking at it with hindsight, there's things about the prequels that I think were wrong. But at the same time, the advantage that the prequels gave all of the things going forward is that it deepened the universe. The original trilogy is a fun story, but the universe itself is only about an inch deep. The prequels added a lot of depth, especially with how the Republic works, the backdrop against which the whole drama plays out. And I think in the long run, that adds to the universe. So I would not be one of those people that say that the prequels are terrible. I'd say maybe the dialogue is, maybe some of the screenwriting was, but the overall concept, it just adds to the story. So
I'm going to put you on the spot. So that's 8 films down with 1 to go in the 9-episode series that is the Star Wars saga. Your favorite of the 8 so far, now that you've seen?
For me, it's always going to be The Empire Strikes Back.
That's weird. That's mine too.
And I think that's probably most people's favorite movie. It's hard to ever recreate that kind of magic when you have a twist at the end that was a total shock. The audience didn't see it coming.
I literally didn't see it coming, because this is a true story. If you don't mind me, Lauren, we watched the movie for the first time again at Columbia Cinema, and I was drinking a Pepsi and just totally engrossed. Popcorn, Pepsi, popcorn, Pepsi, popcorn, Pepsi. And the Emperor's doing this to Luke, and there's all this, and I have to go pee. I have to go pee. My bladder is full, and I finally said, I just gotta go pee. And I got up and I went to the bathroom and I came back down and I missed the scene. And all anybody was talking about is, Darth Vader is Luke's father. And I go, I missed it.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's my little story.
There is a moment very much like that in episode 8. There is a thing that happens in the movie, and I was in the same boat. I knew this was a long movie. I knew that this is one that you don't want to drink a lot before the movie, and midway through I could feel it's like I really would like to take a trip to the restroom now, and couldn't. And so I had to hold it for the full 2.5 hours. I think that it's worth it to do so. So don't drink too much Pepsi before you go to the theater. You're going to want to see it. So.
Last question, and I'll cut you loose. Do you have any idea what the ninth and final movie is going to be about, or where it's going to go?
Absolutely none.
They didn't leave anything hanging out there.
I think this is why the reaction to episode 8 has been so visceral, is that people had all of these theories, all of these things that they thought were going to happen in episode 8. There is a certain cliche convention to what a Star Wars movie is. If I would call episode 8 anything, it's almost an anti-Star Wars movie. It takes every one of the things that you might have thought would happen and subverts your expectations. So now the audience is left going, where do we go from here? I don't know.
You've seen it twice. You're going to see it a few more times, I take it, while it's still in theaters.
It depends on whether my son wants to go see it again or not. If he does, then I'll probably definitely take him. But once it comes out on Blu-ray, it'll add to the collection on the shelf. It'll get a lot more watches.
But there's no question that seeing the movie in a communal environment on a big screen in a theater with that kind of system is the way to go.
It always improves it. There's nothing quite like watching the opening crawl go up on a really big screen. So.
Lauren, thanks for taking time out from your vacation this week to join us here on Wake Up in Wenatchee Valley.
Absolutely.
We'll be right back right after this.
Have a fun video you'd like to see featured on NCW Life? Email us at newsphotos@ncwlife.com.
And we are back here live from Studio 3 in downtown Wenatchee with about 3 minutes remaining on this Friday edition of Wake Up Wenatchee Valley. I am Dan Kuntz, your host, and a friendly reminder, the big story today, and we're going to follow this throughout the course of the day today, is the winter weather advisory that has been issued for all of north central Washington and for a great deal of the Columbia Basin for that matter. What you see on your screen, if it's in yellow, you're going to get some freezing rain today for the Wenatchee Valley proper. Freezing rain off and on, intermittently, if you will, between 7 o'clock this morning and 4 o'clock this afternoon. So we have a winter weather advisory until 4 o'clock this afternoon. And then after 4 o'clock, we could still get some light pockets of freezing rain on top of some light snow, which is not a very good accumulation. What you see on the screen there, essentially the farther east you are of Wenatchee, the less chance you have of measurable freezing rain. The farther west, the better chance you have. There's going to be significant freezing rain in the Plain area, in the Leavenworth area, perhaps even up in the Chelan area. You could see some pockets of freezing rain. So the ice accumulations will vary depending entirely on where you live. But everybody in yellow, you're going to get some freezing rain. There's no getting around that. And the National Weather Service has issued their winter weather advisory until 4 o'clock. So again, for the Wenatchee Valley, your forecast looks like this. Freezing rain off and on throughout the course of the day today. The temperature is going to rise to about 30 degrees. We're not quite there yet. In downtown Wenatchee, we're still holding steady at 27 degrees. Very little temperature variation as you see there. The overnight low and the afternoon high about the same. So what we're going to have here is just freezing rain off and on in pockets from 7 o'clock. So it's already kind of going off here and there until 4 o'clock. And then freezing rain possibly mixed with light snow tonight, spilling into early on Saturday. The chance of rain, freezing rain and snow tonight is hovering at about a 50% chance. The chance of freezing rain today, according to the National Weather Service, is about 80%. So there's no getting around it. We are going to have some freezing rain today, and there's going to be significant freezing rain, by the way, in the mountain passes. They could get up to an inch of freezing rain and sleet. Right now, as far as the mountain passes are concerned, there are no advisories or restrictions on I-90. Stevens Pass has an advisory, and Blewett Pass has an advisory, but all three major mountain passes, I-90, US 2, Stevens, and US 97 Blewett, are all getting freezing rain right now, and they're going to get freezing rain followed by snow, which is about a bad combination as it can possibly be. If your school was on a 2-hour delay and your kids stayed home, I hope they got a chance to watch the program. Everybody have a great weekend. Don't forget we have live high school basketball tonight. Eastmont boys and girls taking on Moses Lake. Till then, take care. Bye-bye.